Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to tackle something that's, well, it's one of the most personal, but also one of the most critical decisions any business can make. We're talking about how to create a powerful brand name, one that actually sticks. All right, so where do we even start? Before we can even think about a name, we've got to back up and ask a much bigger question. And it's one that you'd be surprised most people get wrong. And that is, what is a brand really? Well, to answer that, we first have to just clear the air of a few myths. See, a brand isn't something you just cook up in a boardroom. It's not that simple. At its very core, it's something way more personal, way more powerful. It's a customer's gut feeling. I love this phrase. It's not what you say it is, it's what they say it is. And this is where we really have to cut through all the noise. So many people think, oh, my brand is my logo, or it's my product, or it's the promise I make on my website. Nope, it's none of those things. The brilliant brand strategist Marty Neumeier put it perfectly. A brand is a customer's gut feeling about you. Simple as that. If your reputation and it's built one tiny interaction at a time. And Matt, that is exactly why the name is so incredibly important. Think about it. The name is the very first seed you get to plant in a customer's mind. It's the starting point for that whole gut feeling, right? It's the hook where they're going to hang every single experience they have with you from that point on. Okay, so we get it. The name carries a lot of weight. So what's the difference between just a good name and a truly great one? Well, it really just boils down to doing two core jobs and doing them well. Brand expert Stephen Auergan really breaks this down into two main pillars. First, it has to be memorable. I mean, let's just table stakes, right? If people can't remember it, the name has failed. Game over. But the second job is every bit as important. It has to be strategic. It needs to actively help you carve out and own a specific piece of real estate in your customer's mind. Yeah, this idea of the name as a tool, that's the key. It is not just a label you slap on something. Think of it like this. The name is that seed, and if you nurture it, it grows into the exact image, the exact reputation you're trying to build. Okay, so theory is great and all, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's do this. Let's open up the naming toolbox and take a look at the 7 main types of names that pretty much every great brand fits into. And you'll see the options are pretty vast. Everything from super straightforward to totally abstract. You could go the eponymous route, naming it after the founder, like Disney or Ford, or you could be really descriptive, like American Airlines. But you can also get way more creative, right? Think of associative names like Amazon, which just makes you think of something huge. Or you could just invent a word out of thin air, like Google did. But you know what's really interesting here? These categories, they're not set in stone. A name can actually change over time for purely strategic reasons. What works today might not work tomorrow as the world changes. And that's not a sign of failure. No way. It's a sign of smart strategy. I mean, the classic example, of course, is Kentucky Fried Chicken. As people started getting more health conscious, that word fried, well, it didn't sound so great anymore. So what did they do? They made a super strategic pivot to just KFC. It wasn't just about making it shorter. It was a brilliant move to downplay that negative word and completely reposition the brand. All right, let's get to the good stuff, the how-to. How do you actually do this? I'm going to walk you through a really practical 6-step process that'll take you from a totally blank page to hopefully the perfect name for your brand. Step 1. And honestly, this might be the hardest one for a lot of people. You have to take yourself out of the equation. This is so crucial. I don't care about your favorite street or your dog's name. It doesn't matter. The name is not for you. It is for your customer. So you have to start by getting inside their head and figuring out who they are and what actually connects with them. Okay, next up, define your differentiator. What's your big idea, as Jonathan Belt calls it? What's the one thing you stand for? For Nike, it's winning. For Apple, it's simplicity. Your name has to become a container for that big idea. All right, now for the fun part. This is where you let loose. Pure creativity. In step 3, you just brainstorm like crazy. Make a gigantic list, no bad ideas allowed, of every single word that has to do with your audience and your big idea. Then step 4, you get to be an inventor. You start mashing those words together. Combine them, chop them up, play around until you stumble on something totally new and unique. So, after all that creative chaos, you're going to have a huge list. And let's be real, 99% of it is going to be junk. And that is not just okay, that's the point.
Step 5 is where you put on a different hat. You go from creator to curator. You have to be absolutely ruthless and whittle that long list down to just a handful of the strongest contenders.
So how do you filter it? Simple. You run every name through a checklist of tough questions. Does it pass our memorable and strategic test? Is the domain name even available? And for the love of all that is holy, please check if it means something terrible in another language. You would be shocked how often that happens. And finally, before you pop the champagne, you have to test your shortlist. Actually put the name on a slide right next to your biggest competitors. Say it out loud, try it in a sentence, just see how it feels, how it sounds out there in the wild. Now, once you land on a name, you really need to understand the weight of that decision, because out of everything in your brand, the name, that's one of the hardest things you could ever possibly change. I mean, this quote really says it all. It's like a marriage. Once you pick that name, it is so hard to change. It's not something you can just swap out later. And that's exactly why doing all the strategic work on the front end is absolutely non-negotiable.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. A great name isn't just a label. It's a pollinator. It's this active thing that goes out into the world and sprinkles that seed, that big idea, that position you want to own, right into the minds of your audience.
And that really leaves us with just one final critical question that you have to ask yourself. When you choose your name, what seed will it plant? What kind of reputation? What kind of gut feeling? What big idea is it going to grow into for years and years to come?